What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and if you're enjoying the content here on my channel, then make sure you hit the like button and make sure you hit subscribe so you can help decide what direction the content on my channel goes in the foreseeable future. So as a general rule, I make Deadpool videos like twice a year. Like, I never really do Deadpool videos any more than that, just because, man, I can take Deadpool in small doses. I cannot take Deadpool in very big doses just because of the fact that his zany slapstick humor isn't really up my alley. It used to be, but the stories have to be interesting, like Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe, or like Deadpool does it again, or something along those lines. But this is Edge of Venomverse, and what would an Edge of Venomverse story be without Deadpool? Now, remember, when it comes to Edge of Venomverse, this is much like the Edge of Spider-Verse, in the sense that Edge of Spider-Verse basically culminated in the story Spider-Verse itself, which brought together all these different alternate reality versions of Spider-Man. Some of them were Spider-Women in the case of, Spider-Gwen. Others were characters that we were already familiar with in the case of like Miles Morales. And then some were characters we'd never seen before. And Edge of Spider-Verse was just like these series of one-shots that just gave us these, stories. It was like 2 or 3 stories in one. And it would just give us these stories on these different characters, these different iterations, different things like that. With Edge of Venomverse, it's these alternate reality stories about people who became Venom. Now with Deadpool, it kind of makes sense because this is not a one-off, right? It's not like the very first time Deadpool ever became Venom. He's been Venom, as far as I'm aware, on 2 other occasions. The first one was a what-if story called What If Deadpool Became Venom? And then another one was Deadpool Back in Black, I think it was. But the funny thing about that is that it treats them all as if they're in continuity. And all this actually goes back to 1984 Secret Wars, when Marvel launched the original Secret Wars story. In the 2015 relaunch, Marvel also published a story called Deadpool's Secret War, which basically revealed he was the reason why like everything happened. It was crazy. It was it was kind of a bonkers story. But in this instance, this is one of those things where it's like Marvel Max and Punisher, right? Like, well, one thing I want to clear up, a lot of you guys asked me if I would do more Punisher Max. YouTube demonetized that Punisher Max video immediately after it came out. So, and the stories only get more brutal from there. So, I mean, I'd love to, but like literally YouTube's going to demonetize it as soon as it goes up. So that kind of sucks. Maybe we can find a way around it. I'm not sure. But the idea here is that with Deadpool in this story, we don't really see any other superheroes. And that's kind of the cool thing, because remember, the Edge of Venomverse stories are designed to focus almost exclusively on the character at hand. And that's the way it's been with all the other stories that we've seen so far, X-23 and so on and so forth. The focus has been on the individual character. And so in this instance, I mean, it's a Deadpool story, so it's crazy, but it's basically that like some scientists discovered like this prehistoric tapeworm in like the poop of a shark, which doesn't make any sense because as far as I'm aware, shark poop does not fossilize. I could be wrong, but I don't think it does. And even if it did, the water would probably keep it from fossilizing. But the fact remains here, without getting into like the physics of poop, the whole idea here is that this whole experimentation with this tapeworm coincides with a guy named Dr. Scott. Now, Dr. Scott is basically this guy who would grab these tapeworms and then try to find a way to weaponize them, which makes sense because I mean, it's tapeworms and it's a bad guy. Why wouldn't he do that? The problem here is that it all basically ran amok as you would expect it to in this kind of circumstance. Now, this is where things get kind of cool, right? Like when it comes to Deadpool stories, depending on what story you're reading and what story is going on, as I understand it from what Benny over Comic Historian has been telling me, the current run of Deadpool and all different Marvel is like nothing short of spectacular, which I should probably check it out. But if you go back and read some of the older Deadpool stories, they're just sort of all over the place. Like they're absolutely bonkers. I mean, given his history, it kind of makes sense. Joe Kelly was the one that started making him a funny character. Christopher Priest is the guy that made him break the fourth wall all the time. And then different writers just kind of kept that trend going. But when it comes to Deadpool, his stories usually get pretty bonkers and pretty zany. In this instance, he's actually just kind of fighting tapeworms that have taken over a human host. And the idea is that they, every time Deadpool decapitates these guys, these tapeworms just kind of reconstruct their body again. The other half of this is that these tapeworms are sentient. And so they're literally going through and trying to take over different people. Now, this is when we start to get into the influence of like Deadpool's Secret Wars and like What If Deadpool Became Venom, different things like that. Because in those stories, it's usually the idea that Deadpool, either the venom's thrust upon him by somebody who already has it, in the case of like Spider-Man, or he simply just discovers it. Now in Deadpool's Secret War, it was totally different. In the original Secret War story, which this is kind of cool, I think you guys will dig this. In the original Secret War story, Spider-Man was hunting around like this base looking for a suit or looking for a new change of clothes, and had discovered the Venom symbiote, not realizing what it was. It bonded itself to him and he was like, holy cow, I have like new abilities and it's like a new suit. It wasn't until he got back to Earth that he realized that the suit was basically sentient, and then Reed Richards helped him get rid of it. In Deadpool's Secret War, Spider-Man actually stops Deadpool, asking if he knows where like there's a change of clothes, and like Deadpool's like, yeah, they're right over there, and sends him over to the Venom symbiote. So it's kind of funny, like Deadpool's the reason why Spider-Man became Venom. But the fact remains, of course, once Deadpool bonds with the symbiote, what this does is it kind of hints at the idea that he's had it before. Now it just comes through like song lyrics, right? You know, he's like, I've come to bond with you again, you know, that kind of a thing. It makes sense. I mean, assuming that like everything in this story, in this alternate reality, followed exactly the way things have been up until this moment, or even if it takes place just in some, you know, in the main Marvel universe, which it entirely could just because of how things are unfolding. But if it occurred in the main Marvel universe, it would stand to reason that like Deadpool's been Venom before. And so it would make sense he's bonded with the symbiote on, you know, on several occasions. But regardless of the logic behind it, using the Venom symbiote, he basically just like starts taking every last one of these out and just crushing them. Now, of course, this reveals to us as the reader that over the course of their attempts to weaponize these tapeworms, they've actually been implanting them in the bodies of human people. Now, this is not something the scientists have been doing willingly. This was done by the scientists who were taken over by these little, you know, tapeworm symbiotes or tapeworm parasites. So of course, they're basically kind of forced into it. It's for the most part, like your standard fare with like body snatchers, basically like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, not the old one that sucks, the good one with Donald Sutherland. Like that's what I'm talking about. It's basically some people are taken over by aliens. They start taking more people over by aliens and, you know, different things like that. It follows the exact same formula. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. And really where it goes from here is just Deadpool just crushing all the different aliens and taking them out. Of course, being attacked on his own, different things like that, and fighting all these different, you know, people and these different doctors and so on and so forth who have been possessed by these parasites. But it creates somewhat of a strange situation because, again, when it comes to Deadpool, this character's waxed and waned so much over the years. Different writers write him different ways. There have been stories where they're just like, Deadpool doesn't care who he kills. He'll just kill whoever he needs to in order to like take out whoever it is that he's tracking. But there are other writers who write him in a way where it's like Deadpool's got a moral compass, or Deadpool's like, yeah, I mean, I'm goofy, I'm zany, I'm an assassin. You know, when I go for a target, they can't stop me. But like, I'm not going to kill an innocent person because I don't need to. So it creates one of these cool situations because we can kind of grab either one. I mean, in this instance, they're attacking him and they're kind of overwhelming him, but they're patients. They're not doctors. So it's not like they're the ones who started all this. They're the ones who were basically victims of all this. So it very much falls in line with the idea of Deadpool trying to take these guys out, really without trying to get too torn up about it. Now, of course, once these tapeworms basically infest Deadpool, they're suddenly like taken over, like they're basically obliterated by the Venom symbiote. And so what the Venom symbiote does is use these tapeworms, start coughing them all out, and then again, just go through the process of just, you know, tearing them all up. So again, it's a Deadpool story. It's pretty straightforward. I mean, there's really not a whole lot of room for like, here's what Deadpool's thinking about the circumstance he's in. You know, it's just, I mean, it seems like he's enjoying it for the most part. But then what comes after this is that with the story being relatively serious so far, it again kind of breaks off into that whole idea of it getting zany and getting silly. So like once these parasites are taken out, like he's running around like delivering kids. He's making like balloon puppets with like these these tapeworms. But of course, this leads directly into the events of Edge of Venomverse proper, which is to say Venomized Captain America running around to these different realities and grabbing these different characters who have become Venom and then inducting them into whatever group it is that he's forming for the purpose of doing whatever it is that they're going to do. We don't know the answer to that. We have no idea how things are going to transpire. We have to wait for the story to actually start. But again, it's pretty cool because it's just some of these little one-shots, just these little stories where we see characters and situations that we wouldn't normally see them in. And so it gives us this cool little, you know, indication of, you know, how this Deadpool as Venom differs from the other Deadpools as Venom. Because in the other story, in the What If story where Deadpool became Venom, he was like an 80s guy. Like he had like, oh my God. There's this moment where he gets the Venom symbiote and the Venom symbiote takes the form of Jerry Curl. He's got Jerry Curl. Deadpool has Jerry Curl, and it's amazing. It's so awesome. The fact remains, you know, it's kind of a cool story, pretty little, you know, interesting situation. But in any event, if you guys are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like, and yeah, pretty fun little story. And I will catch you all later. Peace.